What we did here was we looked at the top 15 quarterbacks for fantasy last year. And we looked at that list and we thought to ourselves, which one of these guys or which two of these guys have the best potential to fall in the rankings? Maybe fall out of the top 15. Hey, maybe they don't have to fall out of the top 15. Maybe they fall back just a few spots, but they're falling regardless. Okay? So I guess I'll start us off. And my guy is the guy who finished number 7 for fantasy last year. And that is Ryan Tannehill, quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. I looked at dynasty rankings the other day, and this guy's like the 10th QB going off the board. And I'm like, really? Like, what is going on here? And I dug into it, and it didn't help my cause anymore. And I was just listening to a podcast the other day, some guys over at CBS, and I love their podcast, by the way. If you guys ever listen to us, hey, shout out to you. But, they're also excited about this. Now, this argument that I'm about to lay the foundation for is not completely thrown out the door, but it is severely hindered if Julio Jones ends up on the Tennessee Titans in the next few days. But if he is not there, then tune in, because I'm about to lay the framework for why Ryan Tannehill.
All we can do is evaluate on the information we have right now.
Which is why we're putting this episode out as fast as we can, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm going to lay the case down for Ryan Tannehill. And first and foremost, you need to know the name of a guy like Arthur Smith, offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans over the last few seasons, gave tremendous success to Ryan Tannehill, revitalized his career over there in Tennessee from what it was back in Florida, in Miami. And he's gone now. He's now the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Their new offensive coordinator is a guy by the name of Todd Downing. Todd Downing spent the last 3 seasons in Oakland, demolishing Derek Carr and the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think he was a good fit. Derek Carr is a great QB, and I'm not saying that because I'm a Las Vegas Raiders fan. I am saying that because I genuinely believe he is a good quarterback. In 2016, he put up MVP caliber numbers. The Raiders were great that season. The following season, Todd Downing comes in, and it's been a season after season after season of inconsistent struggles for Derek Carr. And albeit, he still managed to put up really good numbers, but not as near as what he was able to do in 2016. So he's got a new offensive coordinator to work with, okay? Not to mention, Ryan Tannehill threw the ball 481 times. You know what that puts him in pass attempts for the league, Jacob? Take a guess.
Middle of the pack? I don't know.
Middle of the pack? You're wrong. It was 30th in the league.
I was going to say, that's
right?
crazy.
30th in the league. As far as the top 15 fantasy QBs are concerned, that's the second lowest pass attempts behind only Lamar Jackson. Derek Carr, who we were just talking about.
He must have been extremely efficient then.
You think about that, right? But hold on, I'll get to it. So you think about that, but Derek Carr was right behind him. He threw 517 pass attempts. That's 36 more than Ryan Tannehill did. And you mentioned it. Yeah, he must have been extremely accurate. His QB completion percentage was only 65.5%. That's the lowest completion rate of anybody on the top 15 fantasy quarterbacks, okay? Now you just factor in the players. Corey Davis is gone, 92 targets. Jonnu Smith is gone, 65 targets. That's 157 vacant targets that Van Jefferson is going to fill, or I mean, not Van Jefferson, Josh Reynolds is going to fill. Coming over from Los Angeles. Don't get me wrong. I think this guy has tremendous potential. I think he could very easily slide into that Corey Davis role. But at the end of the day, the Tennessee Titans are a run-heavy team. And I don't want to see the end of Derrick Henry. And I'm not saying it's coming yet this season, which is why I preceded that by saying this is a run-heavy team and it runs through Derrick Henry. This is a reason why, Ryan Tannehill only threw the ball 481 times because his team is going to run the ball. And I just don't think that bodes well for a guy. Back to what I was saying earlier, 65% completion percentage, lowest of anybody in the top 15 last year, but yet he was 8th in touchdowns. He set a career high in touchdowns, 36. He's not going to do that again. kind of like you were talking about earlier when we were talking about hype noise. Mike Williams caught 10 touchdowns in his or sophomore season, and then 2 the next, and we were like, because touchdowns are you can't predict touchdowns. You can predict, targets. You can predict probable receptions and yardage, right? Touchdowns are the hardest thing to predict. They're so
wow. He only
dependent.
had 7 interceptions as well.
Exactly, right? So, he was hyper efficient while being highly inaccurate. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's an outlier of a season. And that's why I think
might have elevated him into that top 15 is his rushing touchdowns.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see how many he had? 7.
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
7 rushing touchdowns, which again, I was literally about to mention that. But
I don't know. I don't think he's going to repeat that. So
yeah, which begs to differ to the point I was just saying. Like, touchdowns are entirely an anomaly. The only person that I've ever seen that's been consistent in touchdowns over the last 6 or 7 years has been a guy like Mike Evans, because he's always getting double-digit touchdowns and somehow always managing 1,000-yard seasons. I don't know if that's going to happen for Ryan Tannehill. Now, do I think that Ryan Tannehill falls out of the top 15? Not necessarily. But if you're playing in a 10-man league or a 12-man league, I think he falls out of contention of being that guy who's going to start for you every week in a top 10 scenario or top 12 scenario. I think he falls right around that range of 13 to 15, possibly as bad as 15, as far as 15. And, when he falls into that range, he becomes a QB streaming quarterback. And that's where I think his role is. That's where I think it will be. And hopefully he can bounce back next season. Maybe I'm talking about him as a riser next season. But for this season in 2021, Ryan Tannehill is my faller. Jacob, what is your – oh, sorry, go ahead. Do you have any closing thoughts to my argument?
No, that's a good one. Like, when I was looking at the list, Tannehill was the first one I was going to go for. And I'm glad we actually prepared – I'm actually glad we prepared, because if we would have just both had the same ones, then we wouldn't have much to talk about, because we would just talk about this one guy, do all our research on one guy, and then move on. But yeah, I think it's a good choice, man. It's no shade towards him. He's a really good player.
Not at all.
And you can they could go win the Super Bowl and he could still be a bottom 15 quarterback for fantasy. It doesn't matter,
I think that's happened before. Yeah.
Those things don't necessarily have to correlate. So, and to him, that's all that matters, right? Is having a good season and a good real NFL season and winning. So that's no shade to him. But I do think, because you got to think, in order for some of the guys in the lower half to move up, some guys are going to have to go down. And he's a good guy to choose for that. So
that is a good point. For every faller, there is most certainly a riser.